the President and Executive Director of LibertyandProsperity.org. And LibertyandProsperity.org, we're now going into our 12th year. We are the Tea Party group that started before the Tea Party. We are the Tea Party group that started, wasn't not because we were mad at Obama, but we were sort of fed up with the spending under George Bush and the Republican Congress. And having just come out of a Republican governor of 8 years, Christy Todd Whitman, where Republicans said, vote for us and we will undo what the Democrats have done, and then what we end up with is we end up with more of the same, and more of the same doesn't work, and then the Democrats come along and say, see, you tried the Republicans and it didn't work, so now let's go with the Democrats. So that's how we got started. I also want to thank each of you for being here, because frankly, I was worried that our organization could continue. People just see an organization from the outside. They don't understand that every time we put an ad on the radio, we have to spend money. They don't understand that just to have events, we need liability insurance. They don't understand that to boost our message on Facebook, it's money. And we need a minimum of $25,000 a year to stay in operation. And we were actually running out of money, and we didn't know if we could continue, and we were putting a lot of faith into this fundraiser. Now, I know the weather outside is frightful, but the mood here is delightful. Because even though we have limited numbers here, we were able to raise about $12,000. So, for this one event. And I want to thank you for doing it. And as I was driving here on Shore Road, I noticed like dozens of people who have always said, oh, we admire your work, I want to help, who I didn't have a chance to see, and I'm sure you know others who could be helping us, who could be doing their share. So all it means is we're halfway there, and we have the rest of the year to get those stragglers to do their fair share. So I want to thank you very much for doing that. Now, before I introduce Allison Howard, what I'd like to do, and this is something we do every Saturday morning at the Shore Diner, we have a group of us meet for a 9:30 to 10:30 breakfast discussion. The second Saturday of the month from 9:30 to 10:30, we have a business meeting and we actually do business. But the rest of the time we just discuss things, and I find out that I never leave a breakfast meeting without learning something I didn't know before, without getting some insight I did not know before. And the remarkable thing about this organization is is almost always right on every issue. And whether it comes from the Revel Casino, when all the experts said that the Revel Casino would be a game changer that would turn Atlantic City around, and we said it would not work. When you have the issue said that Stockton College is doing a wonderful job by buying the country club, by buying the casino, by buying Smith. What's the thing they bailed out? The Noyes Museum. By buying a synagogue in Woodbine, by buying an opera house, by buying everything else, and all that's doing a great job. And we overlook why was Stockton created in the first place? So kids could get an affordable education. When Stockton started, a year of tuition could be paid for. Was that mine or no? Okay. A year of tuition could be paid for. Whose is it? Okay. No, not mine. Anyone who claims it. What is it?
Somebody's coat?
I'm sorry. That's my coat.
Oh, Mark! Oh, man!
Sorry.
The technology, we're fighting it. The whole idea was so that a summer of work on a boardwalk could pay for a year of college. And that's something that could be done, and it should be done, rather than build empires. So the question is, why have liberty and prosperity, why are we right so many times, and why are the so-called experts wrong? And this really goes to the heart of America in the first place. Back when America was founded, most people in the world believed that you needed a class of royalty who had been trained since childhood to run affairs of state. And they thought that America would be a failure because America, ordinary farmers, ordinary merchants, ordinary carpenters, ordinary people doing every occupation are now going to be running the government. How could they possibly do it? And the reason Americans did it is Americans were the first people in the world to discover that the skills you need to run a good business, the skills you need to run a good farm, the skills you need to run a good trade are identical to the skills you need to run a good government. And that just by ordinary people using their ordinary experience will do a better job spending their own money and affecting their own lives than so-called smart experts running somebody else's life. And that was the genius of American self-government that we discovered 300 years ago. And now we find out we are living proof of how that works, because just ordinary citizens of common experience, honestly discussing issues on a Saturday morning, come up with a better understanding of what is going on in our world than the so-called experts who they have all the training and they have all the expertise, but they are not affecting their own lives. They suffer no consequences. If they make good decisions, they don't benefit. If they make bad decisions, they don't suffer. So that's the lesson we learned, and I want to thank you for being a part of it. So as we do every Saturday morning, I'd like to do that right now, because there's so many people here who have contributed so much to our organization that I'd like to introduce each of you. But I think it would be better to just have each of you introduce yourselves, starting with Terry. Just tell us your name and where you're from, and we'll go around the room.
I'm Terry Hutchison. I'm from Mason Landing.
Okay, and Jan?
Jan Knepper, Upper Township.
Okay, we have, behind?
Nate?
Nate of Northfield.
Jacobson, Northfield.
That's Nate of Northfield. You hear that voice on our radio all the time. Our treasurer, come on, step forward.
Bruce Barkoff, Edover Township.
Bob, bring
Bob, Brigantine.
Bob, that last name.
Cathern, Brigantine.
Donna Sinopoulos, from Brigantine also.
Okay.
Jennifer Fisher, Jacob Fisher, Galloway. Clifford Fisher, Galloway. Gina Wood, Ocean City.
Sharon Zappi, Atlantic City.
Joe Wood, Ocean City.
Victoria Satinskaya of the Township.
Barbara Brown, or you can call me Basha, from Summer Point.
And by the way, I'm going to point out, like with Barbara, this organization is incapable of having a normal wine and cheese like other organizations. So as Barbara had to throw in the brownies and those deviled eggs, and we'll continue as it goes on. Karen?
Karen Bork, Upsecond. Elizabeth Rosa, Atlantic City.
Archie Jones, Cape May Courthouse.
Carla Jones, Cape May Courthouse.
And there's a special introduction to Carol, is it Carolyn, is it? Jones, her mom is Imogen Caldwell of Young's Shoe Repair, and on Mechanic Street in Cape May Courthouse. And I cannot say enough about her mom, because there you see her, and she is really the model of this organization, and she should shame a lot of people we know who are better off. But there she is. She makes her money fixing shoes, and you see her, she's dirty, she's sweaty, she has all of the shoe polish all around, and yet every 2 or 3 months she writes a check for $50 for Liberty and Prosperity.
Very nice.
And every 2 months or every 3 months I come by and I stop in her shop and I thank her for the $50 check. And I remind her that she is working so hard and has such limited means, and that there's so many other people who are better off, who could make a better donation. I say, you've already given more than your fair share, so please do not write any more checks to us this year. And as soon as I leave the office, I come to my office the next week and there's another check for $50 from her. So she is such a stubborn American, she just doesn't take no for an answer. So yeah, I'm so glad that your mom brought us here as your guest. Then we have Steve Jones. And by the way, Steve Jones, if you go to our website, you'll notice various videos that are put together that really take all my long and boring discourses, and somehow Steve manages to put them into 3-minute videos that are very persuasive, very effective, and we refer to them on YouTube and on our website, so thank you for doing what you do. Okay.
Marisa Mahan,
Wait, before we go, I just got to back up to Marisa Mahan. Of course, she's married to Dennis Mahan, our past president, who formed the New Republicans in Northfield, and really, for many years, really put this organization on the map. And I want to thank you for all that you have done. One of the traditions they started, we have we march in the 4th of July parade very often through Northfield, Linwood, Summers Point, and they were always start at her house with a nice breakfast and end up with a great barbecue. So thank you so much for putting us on. I'm sorry, Clarence.
Thank you.
Don't
Yeah.
forget, Dennis sat with City Council in Northfield too.
Yes, he was. That's true.
Well, I take a rest for a year, and I'm planning to coming back again.
Good, very good. Welcome. And you're always welcome. Clarence, I'm sorry.
Clarence Ivey, Morgan Township.
Marion Jones, Mays Landing, and they're not boring.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Well, I'll put that Steve makes it more interesting, for low information voters, you might say. So that's
Very
good.
educational thing.
You got it. Okay.
Jim Kershaw, Hamilton.
Okay, and that is Jim Kershaw, the surrogate of Atlantic County. And I'll never forget one time when we were, and I forget what political battle it was. We were on a bus. I think it was working with I think his name was Bob Franks, who was running for U.S. Senate against Bill Bradley, and came very close to he was running against John Corzine, and came very close to defeating him. And one of the reasons why conservative Republican Bob Franks did not win that election was because our liberal Republican Senator Bill Gormley was undermining the conservative to favor John Corzine. And we were setting up these events in Atlantic County that were deliberately, the attendance was kept down because the Republicans were working against us. And we had one more event, and I'll never forget, it was organized by Jim Kershaw in Hamilton, where he had a huge attendance, and he says, I remember he said, you're in the liberated part of Atlantic County now. So those words always stayed with me after all these years. Jim Kershaw, our surrogate, running for re-election. I wish you lots of luck. And now let me just move over, I guess over here.
Charles Fisher Galloway.
Okay, and of course Charles Fisher, fourth generation of Fisher Flowers. Okay, we have the fifth generation over there.
That's it.
And just to show how much dedication Charles Fisher has for the cause of liberty, not only does he give generously to our organization, and we will be giving out his door prizes 4 beautiful floral arrangements from Fisher Flowers. So whenever an event comes up, the first thing, go to the website or give him a call. Not only does Charles Fisher come to all of our Saturday breakfast discussion meetings, not only does Charles Fisher send all this valuable websites and information which we disseminate on our website, but he actually has enrolled in a full-time student in the course I teach at Atlantic Cape Community College Wednesday nights to hear me say the same thing. So thank you very much. Okay.
Mary Catsmore Glenwood.
And Mary Kasmark is our membership chairman. Whenever you come to one of our breakfasts, if you try to eat breakfast and then make it out the door without signing up, giving us your email, you will find Mary Kasmark will follow you into the parking lot to get that information. So I appreciate that. Okay, Tim?
Tim Phelan, Ocean City.
Okay, thank you.
Jim House, Grover Township.
Judy Butler, Pleasantville.
Also regularly attends all the breakfast meetings.
Mark Padula, I own a cell phone.
Of just 4 wheels, another small businessman trying to make it. And as anyone knows, you keep reading in the paper every time there's a budget, they say, oh, we held the line on the budget. We're only giving our employees a 2% raise this year. And how many people in private business are making 2% more this year than they did last year or after that? And obviously, Mark, with renting cars to tourists, deals with people with discretionary income. And we're all facing hardships as the income goes down, but the taxes go up. And he's fighting very hard for us in Atlantic City.
Marvin Waxman, Margate.
Barbara Waxman, Margate.
Robert Fleischer, Atlantic City.
Another gem, Robert Fleischer came up with the guerrilla warfare where he has whatever comes up, whether it's a dating site, whether it's a social meeting, Robert always finds a way to inject the message of liberty and prosperity into any social setting. And that's why, just looking at Robert reminded me, we have these postcards that really give the mission of liberty and prosperity. That we believe that the key to America is the words of our Declaration of Independence, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that we're all created equal, we're all endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So I urge each of you, before you leave, pick up 5 or 10 of these, and when you go to the Wawa, wherever you go, please do what you have to do to get that message out. It'll make a big difference.
Michael Smith, Mays Landing.
Another unsung hero who always is there to contribute money. In fact, we had the symposium on Common Core, and we didn't know if we would have enough money to participate. Mike was right there with a check to be a co-sponsor of $100, whatever we need him. I didn't get the Mark yet. I was going to get there. And then, of course, Mark, who's always there. This is the really the foundation of Liberty and Prosperity. Mike and Mark, so thank you so much. Now, what I was doing, I see, once I get started, I was actually supposed to just hold 2 minutes till our guest Allison could get a drink of water and everything, which I'm sure she did. And the bottle's gone, and you're on your third bottle of water right now. Anyway, let me introduce, with no further ado, Allison Howard of Concerned Women of America.
Yeah, I need to consume as much water as I had coffee since we've been here. This morning we did breakfast with some of you. It's been wonderful. And thank you so much for coming out in the snow. It means a lot, and I'm just grateful to meet all of you today. So, you know, I live in Washington, D.C. I work at an organization called Concerned Women for America. If you haven't heard of it, it's the easiest way to understand us is Christian in foundation and conservative in philosophy. I work with a bunch of wonderful women, and we like to joke that we're the only women's organization that actually likes men. So we are totally fine with all of the concerned guys here. Yeah, women's organizations on the left like to hate on men. We are happily married to them, dating them, and supporting all our concerned men. So thank you guys here. We are really unique in DC, and I can relate to be a conservative in New Jersey. Being a conservative in DC is about as alien-like as it can get. You know, when I introduce myself and I tell people I'm from New Jersey and conservative, they like take a step back and go, "Are there others?" I'm like, "Yes," and they're all in this room right now. So we only have each other. I've just been so encouraged as I've been talking with Seth, talking with Steve Jones, who is my neighbor, about what you guys are up to here in New Jersey. I was born and raised in Atlantic County. I grew up in Egg Harbor City, and then my dad and mom moved to Mays Landing, so that's where we are, out by Blue Heron Pines Golf Course. I went down to school in Southern Virginia at Liberty University. I studied communications, public relations, and advertising. I moved up to DC. I worked at Fox News and I worked at Concerned Women for America, and really got to see how news was covered and how news was made. And I got fixated on how news was made and the stories of people and how public policy was affecting their lives. Definitely not one of those people that loves politics. That scares me when people are like, "I love politics," because I'm like, you're probably part of the problem. You're not probably part of the solution. But I do love public policy, and I didn't grow up in a political family, but I did grow up seeing the power of personal choices and the power of hard work and where it can get you. And so I'll say this. You guys know this, that our nation is on a precipice on a multiple level issues. And Concerned Women for America has 7. And I think in this room we're going to defer on a lot of different things, but I think we're going to agree on a lot of the same things. So I just want to go through 7 of our issues with you guys this morning quickly. And I want to kind of hear your voice afterwards about how you feel. CWA works on these 7 core issues. I'm the communications director there. So the first one is sanctity of life. We support the protection of all innocent human life from conception until natural death. We also support alternatives to abortion and healing for mothers suffering from the results of abortion. We are actively defending the family. We believe that marriage consists of a man and woman. The best place for a kid to grow up is in a marriage, and we seek to protect and support that and help the kids. Working on education. I've already talked to you some here about Common Core. CWA supports reform of public education by returning authority back to parents and also accessibility to alternative forms of education through things like school choice. Religious liberty is one of our issues. We support the God-given rights of individuals in the United States and other nations to pray, worship, and express their beliefs without fear of persecution and discrimination. Fortunately, we can't say that for our brothers and sisters and friends in the Middle East right now, so we continue to work and pray for their protection. National sovereignty. believing that neither the United Nations or any other international organization should have authority over the United States in any area. We also believe that the United States has the right and duty to protect and secure our national borders. We believe in budget restraint, which embodies responsible spending. Imagine that. Small government, and a budget in which the United States government spends within its means and ceases to steal from future generations. Sexual exploitation is our 6th issue. We're working to fight all forms of pornography, obscenity, prostitution, and sex slavery. And lastly, we just took on support for Israel as our 7th core issue. We believe that the people and nations who stand with Israel and the Jewish people will be blessed by God, and we believe that any foreign policy effort to withdraw U.S. support from Israel is in direct contradiction to our national security interests and our American interests. Those things are big things, but don't fall prey to the idea that a small group of people can't make a change. In fact, one of my favorite quotes is, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Seth talked about that, and I think Liberty and Prosperity is doing a great job talking about that the foundation of our country is something we have to continue to remember. That our freedom was fought for on the bloody battlefields of Concord and Lexington, and that it's our job to teach future generations about that. That we live in a beautiful society, that we as women, particularly here in this room, can speak up for ourselves and our families. We can vote, we can drive cars, we can post on Facebook. These are things that women in other countries can't do to defend their rights and their freedoms. And that men sitting here in this room, you're able to live your life and love your family and work hard in a free market system so that the harder you work, the better you should be able to do and provide. That's something we don't want to condemn. And I see that happening a lot on the other side. We've talked about that a little bit with some of you here. Them condemning hard work and condemning success. None of you here today that said, I'm 5th generation working here and I own this business should feel ashamed. That is such an example to young people of what hard work can do. So please continue to share those stories and work towards those things. Winston Churchill once said that our enemies are too vast and our friends are too few for us to be divided. And when y'all invited me here, you said, how do we as libertarians and conservatives work together? And to get towards these common principles of liberty and prosperity. And I just have to say personally, again, on Winston Churchill's quote, our enemies are too vast and our friends are too few for us to be divided. When I'm in DC, I sense that frustration that I think we all feel, that nothing is getting done. Because people have gone to their corners and they've staked their territory and they aren't willing to come together to see change effected. And that's what I want to thank you guys and encourage you guys for doing. I know there's different opinions on a lot of different issues in here, but you've met in the middle and said, we're still going to work together to affect change in New Jersey. We're going to come together and make sure that our elected officials are held accountable. They work for you. You don't work for them. You can hire and fire them by your vote. And if these are the issues that we care about, I just want to challenge you today, and I'm so grateful to see young ones here, because don't give up on us young people. If these are the issues you care about, what are you doing to pass them on to that next generation? We at Concerned Women for America have Young Women for America chapters across college campuses all over. So if you have kids or grandkids at college, please get them in touch with us. We want to be creating young women who are independent, strong-minded, strong-willed, and equipped to be the leaders of the next generation. But we need to see that from our families. We need to see that from those around us. I was telling Judy that I just got back from Israel 3 weeks ago. That was my first trip over there. And they have an 80% voter turnout rate in Israel. That blew me away. Now, they're a country about the size of New Jersey, but they are surrounded by enemies, and bigger enemies than New York people. You know what I mean? Like bigger. It would be as if New Jersey was seeking to defend itself against the rest of the country, the threats that they have. Every single child serves in the IDF in Israel. Now, you ask me, I think that's why 80% of people turn out to vote. Because your kids are serving, and you have served, and you understand the threat that's out there. We need to make sure that we understand the threat that's out there, and we need to continue to pray for our people that are deployed, but also be as invested as those parents are in Israel. That if it's not your kid, there's somebody's kid out there fighting for our freedom. And it's been a long legacy of people continuing to fight for our freedom. Now we face a threat that's different. Not only the threat of our national debt weighing over our heads and the heads of our children and our grandchildren, but there's an ideology growing in the Middle East that is not for periodic change. They are apocalyptic in what they're doing to people, to Muslims, to Jews, to Christians. It doesn't matter, and they don't discriminate. And we want to protect our country by protecting our borders, protecting our religious liberty, and protecting our freedom of speech. Right now, government's trying to take over the internet. That's a big deal. You already have groups like the IRS targeting groups like Concerned Women for America for being too conservative. Instead of real threats that are out there that really have promised to affect change and be a threat to our freedoms. So individually, I don't know what issue gets you fired up, but what I do know is there's power in being an expert in that and going out and talking about it. It can be overwhelming to understand and watch and keep up. I can't keep up with everything that's going on every day. But I will say, and I shared this at breakfast, that we can learn from what our enemies do well, right? So a smart person learns from their own mistakes. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others. We as conservatives have lost 2 presidential elections. This next election is huge. What the Obama administration did in 2008 was clever and smart. They went to anyone that contacted the campaign. Within 72 hours, they either had a knock on the door or a phone call that asked 2 questions. What is your story, and why do you want to get involved? And I think each of you have a story and a reason that you got involved with Liberty and Prosperity. And that's what keeps you coming. That's what keeps you involved. But they did that on a national level, and then it sent to those people, whatever their issue was, environment, taxes, fiscal responsibility, made them disciples of that issue, and then they went out and they continued to get their friends. So I encourage you to do that. Whatever it is for you, if it's Common Core, education, life, national sovereignty, our debt, taxes, make sure that you are becoming a disciple of those things and telling others. That face-to-face interaction, that I've been following what you guys are doing on Facebook and those postings. We are more interconnected than ever. You absorb information every day. So don't be afraid to use those mediums to talk to people, even outside of your own generation, about what Jersey is facing. New Jersey, it is in a unique situation. I am in DC, but I'm always trying to keep track of what's going on at home. I love New Jersey. I'm so honored to be from New Jersey, and I'm actively trying to combat the Jersey Shore antics that everyone now gives us thanks to that show. And Snooki, bless her heart. Unfortunately, that's all people think about when I say I'm from New Jersey. But New Jersey's in a unique situation. Right now, New Jersey is one of 3 states that saw their poverty rate increase last year. One of only 3 states. 60% increase in the rate of homelessness in 1 year. 1 year, a 60% jump in homelessness. What are we doing? What are we doing as conservatives to help fix the idea that we are not compassionate, we don't care, we're only about the rich? Well, whose policies got people out of work? Whose policies helped put New Jersey in a terrible situation where now they're one of 3 states that had a poverty rate increase? We should be the ones that are actively engaged in our families and in our community to say, we care so much about you. We'll sacrifice our time, we'll sacrifice our talents and our resources and our funds to support groups that want to help and to get involved with those other people who can come around an idea and get stuff done. My own father took that on his own conscience, and now every other weekend is in Atlantic City serving through an organization he started called City Lights, just handing out food, hot chocolate, giving a message of inspiration, and putting sneakers and sweatpants on people. And it's so sad because the biggest thing I hear from others is, well, they're just going to take and take and take. And I get that. There's definitely a sense of that. When there's so much need, it's hard. It's hard to drive through Atlantic City. It's hard to see what's going on. But you know what he said? We're not called to stop. We're not called to stop loving people. You can't get a job until you have shoes. You can't get a job until you have clothes, and you can't get a job until you have a house over your head and a cell phone to get back to. So what are we doing to help the little guy we talked about this morning so that people can get on their feet, get a job, and be in a free market system that they can do well in? I really thank you guys so much for what you're doing. I hope to now have met you and stay connected so that when I go back to DC, I have your stories to share. The other side does such a great job of telling stories, these very heart-wrenching stories that can change a congressman's mind. But we have to do that too. We've got to go in and say, this person just lost their health care plan because of Obamacare. He promised that you could keep your plan. Almost everyone lost their plan and is now paying more for it. Let's put some faces to those stories and share that. No matter what, in these next elections and these next things that are going on in New Jersey, be aware and be informed, and thank you for spending your time, spending your Sunday here with people to learn. I want to take your questions. I want to leave time for that. But I want to read a quote that I hope encourages you. It's from Ronald Reagan, and it says, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." And so, thank you to you guys for being strong enough to fight for New Jersey. I know it's really hard to be conservative here. I know it's really hard to maybe be the only person to stand up against city council in a school board meeting and speak up and say, we've got to work within our means and we've got to function. You teach this to your kids, right? In a family unit, you say, we don't have the money for that. We just simply can't do it right now. You don't get to charge it all to a credit card. The more we spend as a state, the more businesses we drive out, the worse we're going to be able to do and provide for our future. And so we saw what happened with the casinos, and that breaks my heart. The amount of jobs that were lost because of people not making wise choices and making bad public policy decisions. So I continue to work for you guys and pray for you guys and pray for some leadership, because there's some lack of leadership happening, to make those hard choices that really change the trajectory of a state. I'm honored to have you as friends in that great endeavor for liberty and prosperity. Please hold me accountable if I'm ever doing or saying what you guys don't want to happen in DC. So I take your messages and your stories back there and share them. I've been blessed to work at Concern Women for America for 4 years now, and I get plenty of phone calls of people telling me, listen, this is what we're struggling with. This is what we need help on. So we don't yet have a Concern Women for America of New Jersey. So if anyone feels so inclined that they want to lead that charge, I want Liberty and Prosperity to be linked in with other groups, and I'm going to try and work on that. We've already talked about that today, so I can get you guys help for fundraising, for all those great things, and have great big events, and raise a ton of money, and then go in there and change things, shake things up, because that's definitely what we need. So again, thank you so much for having me. I'd love to take questions, but I'm honored to have you all as friends.
By the way, I just want to thank, I forgot Steve Jones for being your neighbor who was nagging us for 2 years to drag you to be our speaker at this event. So Steve, thank you again for that. All right, now what we'll do, we'll take about 5 minutes for questions, if anyone has any questions, or if you feel you'd rather just talk to Allison one-on-one, one of our requests will be, besides when you go in the Harry Hurley program, say, and I was at breakfast with libertyandprosperity.org. Besides that, one of her commitments will be to stay to talk one-on-one for about 20 minutes more. But anyone have any questions they'd like to address to her right now? Okay, Steve?
Of course. You mentioned just bringing on this core issue for Israel. You're in the Beltway, so to speak. What is your impression of our politicians and their attitude towards Israel, which traditionally has been a great ally and we've had a great relationship under this president or this administration? That seems to be in jeopardy.
Yeah. Well, I did not study foreign policy. It's something that to me I'm learning. And the easiest way it's been described to me, and I'm so grateful for that, is what's going on in the Middle East is scary and tense. But between what you saw this summer in the conflict between Israel and Palestinians, if Israel and Palestine are lobbing rockets at each other, absolutely, we see that happening. If Palestine stopped lobbing rockets at Israel, they would both coexist. If Israel stops lobbing rockets back, Israel is wiped out. It's that simple. Israel is our only democracy, is the only democracy in the Middle East. It's our only ally over there. It is a sanctuary for people. Muslims, Jews, and Christians live among them, each other peaceably, but I think it's about 14% of Israelis are Arab. There is an Arab quarter, a Muslim quarter, a Christian quarter, a Jewish quarter. It was just there. It's amazing. They reflect us in a lot of ways. Not exactly. Their political system is very different, but when I come back to DC and I find out that we are now protesting their prime minister coming to speak on Tuesday, I believe, that's shocking to me because he is trying his best to defend his people and defend democracy over there. That people vote. It's different. It's funny. Actually, you can start your own party if you have I think 32 signatures. So there's a ton of different parties in Israel that compete. But their political spectrum is much wider. But it breaks my heart that there are people protesting him coming. Because at the very least, we should hear about what he's concerned about. And his concern is a nuclear Iran. That should be our concern. Because Iran has made clear that Israel is the little Satan and we are the big Satan. They want to push Israel into the sea, which Judy was so kind to talk about.
Right.
Guess who's next? That's a threat to all of us. And so I am watching very closely what's going on there. And will most likely be outside cheering on Bibi Netanyahu coming and saying, you're welcome to speak and share your concerns. Absolutely. You can call your members of Congress and encourage them to go and attend his speech out of respect for him as the leader of a democracy over there. You can absolutely call. You can find out that information on our website. It's concernedwomen.org. And I think we're actually going to be putting out an alert to do that tomorrow. So if you sign up for an alert on our website, we can get you that information. You can call and let people know that you want them to attend.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. And I just want to remind everyone that Allison, you'll be with us for about another 20 minutes to a half hour. Barbara Brown, again, could not restrain herself to wine and cheese. You have her brownies over here. You have her deviled eggs over there. We have Mike's kielbasa. We have Jim House's meatballs. So please stick around, and there's plenty of wine. And anything else, Barbara, that I overlooked?
I have to acknowledge that the Acme in Silver's Point for the second year in a row gave us a $50 gift card to help with the food. So I'd like people to support them. And also...
we forgot something in the back. Could someone pick that up and put it up here?
Circle Liquor, I was in there the other day just to browse, not to really... Just kidding. So I was in there, and I just happened to strike up a conversation with one of the girls in the office, and they generously donated, I thought they'd just give us a bottle of wine, they generously donated a beautiful basket valued at, I think, $160, so.
Well, no, I think it was 110.